there, everyone. This is John King of the Drunken Odyssey podcast, and right now we're going to talk about Casino. This is an unauthorized DVD commentary, and joining me today is Patrick Jehle.
So this is unauthorized, is what you're saying?
Yeah. If Martin Scorsese finds out about this, he's going to beat the shit out of us.
Okay. So I will be leaving this commentary right now. John, you can take it away. I know you'll do a beautiful job.
All right. Well, I'm hitting play in 3, 2, 1, go. So Casino came out in 1995, 5 years after Goodfellas, and you and I are both of the opinion that this is better than Goodfellas.
I think it's more ambitious. Yeah, I do think it's better. I think it's better in a lot of ways. Certainly the female roles are better, or at least I'm going to call her Jessica Stone. I'm blanking now on her name. You know, The Temptation Woman, whatever that movie was, where she crosses her legs.
Sharon Stone.
It's just a much larger film in a lot of ways. This is obviously the opening shot here of his real name is Lefty, but Scorsese said that he had to tone down the suits that he wore.
We're about to see the worst mannequin in the history of
worst mannequin.
A fraction of a second. So
right. So is this a real man going through fire here? Is that what we're?
I believe this is what's called a composite shot. So real man flying, and the flames are in a different place. Yeah. So tone down the suits, because I remember being shocked a lot in the theater. So
you remember it being shot in the theater?
I remember being shocked in the theater.
Oh, shocked!
At what? That was like salmon colored a jacket.
Salmon, yeah. The real life character was so flamboyant and so over the top that even Scorsese felt the palette of the movie would just be too overwhelming. So even though it is his most, I don't know, it looks like a candy colored kind of palette to the film, right? It looks like you're in a candy store with all the different colors, and here you get all these neon shots.
He had layers of Vegas.
Right. And I think the layers on layers are interesting here. You have Bach playing, and you have the glitz and the absolute meaninglessness of Las Vegas at the same time. And in that way, it is a summation in a way of Scorsese's world, right? I mean, those two opposing sides of his artistic character.
It's kind of a non-canonical Catholic morality tale. So we've got Sam Rothstein descending into hell with the fire. This is, like a long time before Mad Men, but falling through the fire and these sort of heavenly pretty, bizarre, psychedelic lights of Vegas.
Right. The fire here is very cheesy, I have to say. And I don't think in a Vegas cheesy way. I just think it's just one of those things that Martin Scorsese does that seems very ham-fisted once in a while. It sort of humanizes him for me.
So what Scorsese does a lot, especially with the gangster films, is voiceovers, which violates, right, a rule of screenwriting. You're not supposed to use voiceovers. Oh, we got the sort of Last Supper here.
Right. Very Caravaggio-esque. He was very inspired by Caravaggio, and you can tell that chiaroscuro sort of lighting.
And what's great about what he does with voiceovers, so we got Nikki interrupting Sam. And also you get the sense that the gangsters at that dinner overheard Sam's monologue and kind of look up at him. So that this is already kind of very meta and, just crazy in terms of what's happening with voiceovers and the work that's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll do that, I think, a couple of times in the film, especially at the end. That's the most surprising, when Nicky's giving his monologue and it gets interrupted by his murder, which, would tend to put a damper on most monologues, right? But this is what's distinctive about his work with Pileggi, because Pileggi's book, Casino, which was published at the same time, was actually developed at the same time as the screenplay, and Wise Guy, which is the basis of Goodfellas, Pileggi hardly touches his material. He just records what people are saying and just transcribes it. So all you get are the voices of these people. And that's what you want from mafia stories. That's what you want from gangster stories. You want the vitality of these voices. And that's what gives the formal structure to Scorsese's films. And of course, they don't obey the usual formal structure, right?
So check out the lighting here. Yeah. So one of the things I'm obsessed with in this film is just how the lights sometimes they're shining really bright in places that don't matter. So that you can have these sort of miniature spots. And to me, it seems like, this maybe is playing into that whole spirituality theme where these characters are kind of walking in and out of, divine light.
Right.
And you got Sam making his joke about Vegas being like Lourdes.
A morality car wash.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's a perfect line. Right?
So I'll probably be bringing it up a lot during this film, just looking at where the lights are placed, because if I didn't know better, right, you might be tempted to think, oh, this is pretty bad lighting.
Well, I mean, this could be another. I don't think I'm reaching. I know I'm reaching here, but this could be another kind of Catholic sort of aspect to his work. I'm thinking of a line from Augustine when he talks about the idea of the principles of textual interpretation. When he talks about the idea of conspicuous irrelevancy, that looking for something that seems as though it does not fit into the whole formal structure could be the very thing that actually provides the most illumination, right? And that kind of mimics God's creation, where you look in the places that aren't necessarily center stage, right? You look in the manger, right? Or you look somewhere else. And so that could be part of what he's doing. I wouldn't put it past him. It sounds like a big reach, but I think that could be part of his kind of crypto-Catholicism.
Kind of giving a sense of existential abundance. So... yeah, I imagine Pileggi's art is, one, getting these guys to talk to him, and two, arranging the monologues in such a way as they form a story so that he can stay out of the way. Because the way that they talk, this is really, I think, probably more important than the violence in these stories is just hearing these gangsters talk.
Hearing the way they talk, the accents, you lose a sense of time when people talk. And especially when these guys talk. They're talking about decades of time here. Did
you see that very subtle wink Sam gave him as he's going out the door?
Yeah.
Very long, steady cam shot. Not quite as complicated as the Copacabana from Goodfellas, but
this is a kind of anatomy of gambling, right? It's like telling you how a casino actually works, and in that way, it's sort of like Moby Dick, right? It's there's a story, but then there's also just what is gambling? How does it work? How do they get money from one place to the next? How do they make money? Where does it go? And they're going to all these places you would never imagine had anything to do with Vegas. Kansas City, Cleveland, places that you wouldn't even think they had Italians,
Yeah. And of course, what they're going to do here. So it seems already kind of complicated, and the camera just keeps moving around. And there's Martin Scorsese's mom on the right. And here we have food porn. There's always some food porn.
Mm-hmm. And I believe that's his father. That could be his father. I'm not sure. His father is the cook in jail in Goodfellas. I don't know if you remember that, but Remo Gaggi, who was the guy playing him, is not an actor. Scorsese asked him to be in the film. This is his first acting job.
I think he's great.
He's terrific.
So,
and he got roles after this.
In the middle of describing this complicated scheme, right, they're backing up the story and saying, and here's how the scheme was set up, so that it just keeps getting more and more convoluted. There's no forward momentum other than the fact that we know Sam Rothstein got blown up.
Right. It is interesting that these knuckleheads, they're murderers, essentially, that they can somehow master all of this, that they can keep track of how this works, as Nikki says, right, it's the last time they ever gave like something. Yeah, street guys like us ever had a chance to control things. And
so I haven't counted how many songs we've gone through here. We're at minute 10, but guess how many songs are used in Casino?
I'm going to say I've listened to this soundtrack probably, 100 times. Maybe 47. I don't know.
62 songs are listed.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing.
And so we've got here just a really famous jazz song, Sing, Sing, Sing. But it's the Louis Prima version. And I'm not sure you can get more Italian than Louis Prima. All right, look at where the light is shining. So it's like really super bright on their shoulders.
Yeah. His head, his bald head is blinding.
I mean, this is how it might look if I were lighting a film, but not because I was trying to make it look like that.
So you don't like this, or what's your review of this whole lighting technique?
Well, I first noticed it. The film he made before this was The Age of Innocence, right? A completely different setting, an adaptation of an Edith Wharton novel, and he was doing the same thing with the lighting. So, no, I think it's really fun and interesting. And Goodfellas, one of the reasons why I think so many people love Goodfellas and kind of like Casino but don't love it as much is because it doesn't have as much grit, right? Goodfellas is really gritty. Well, I think the weird lighting is one of the things that kind of adds this weird, crazy element that kind of is kind of a substitute for grit,
right?
Visually speaking. And now we're about to go further back in time. Telescoping back.
Now, the time scale for this is the 60s to the 80s, right? It doesn't feel like it's that long, but it's actually quite long. And so even though De Niro is roughly the age that he's supposed to be...
Back Home Years Ago, with the caption Back Home Years Ago, which I just find... Right, that's fucking funny, right?
Right, let's not be too precise here. Why do you think he does that? I mean, because in the book it's Chicago. Do you just think it was something funny he saw and just said, "Yeah, put that in the subtitle"? Or
I think it may be a response to Pulp Fiction, where, right, Harvey Keitel, veteran actor who's worked with Scorsese a lot, basically says, "Oh, it'll take 10 minutes to get there. I'll be there in 9 minutes and whatever." And then the caption says like 9 minutes and however many seconds it took him to get to the curb outside. But things are moving so fast that Back Home Years Ago, and then, to list captioning, which, normally would be to make it specific, and it's completely vague.
Well, Scorsese does this with information in his films, right? He has some of these films he does are very information heavy, right? So Wolf of Wall Street is very information heavy. And he tries to give you a general impression of what's going on, but realizing you're never going to get it.
Yeah, well, like Melville with whaling. The world of the mob and the way gambling works. I mean, they're in the back of some Italian restaurant. And look at all the statuary and other, just random accoutrement they have all around there.
Right.
And this is one of the few cases where I kind of like Robert De Niro and Ace's character. Like, he knows he's more interesting if he doesn't say how he figured it out. And he's kind of being a smug son of a bitch about it, because this is actually the thing that makes him most happy, is figuring this shit out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he has control over the information, so why give it out? That's part of what his character is about, is just, control. And he has to have a certain sense of mystification about what he does, because he admits in real life, he says, I don't even bet on 95% of what comes across my table, because I know I have no idea how it's going to turn out. He only really bets on sure things, or as near as he can get. So that's part of his secret. Here's Billy Batts, who's back from the dead and friends with his counterpart,
immortal Frank Vincent. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, so I think there's a stage in this scene, and there's a spotlight on the bar and not on the stage. Look at where that fucking light is.
Yeah.
And it's like, we need the lights to catch all of this smoke. It's
yeah. Well, it's distracting, right? I mean, doesn't it distract you as a viewer? I mean, isn't that what it's meant to convey? There's something, it's glaring. It's you can't quite see what's going on. It's
a little disorienting. Yeah.
It's disorienting. Yeah. And here's the scene where, you get the contrast between the two characters, right? You have Sam, who's trying to find out the answer to question non-violently, and Nikki, who just doesn't even think and either kills him or maims him beyond repair. I don't know what actually happens to this guy, but
his indomitable will. And for some reason, I completely believe that Nikki could be that short and that much of a badass. He's stabbing him
in real
again.
life, you're saying, yeah.
Well, if we go back to raging, just an insane amount of smoke. This is like Humphrey Bogart levels of smoke here. And some more great acting from De Niro, where he's just puzzling out like Nikki, like he's maybe not even a mammal.
Yeah. Well, Nikki's the thing that, I don't know, clears a path for him, that he uses in a way, and then realizes he can't control him, and it, nearly destroys his life, or pretty much does destroy his life.
So
he's the energy. Yeah, go ahead.
We've come back from our history lesson, getting back to something close to the present of the story. At the beginning of Sam running the casino.
This is the opening shot. And he's the seeing eye, right? He's the camera. There's a lot of him just looking, right? He just looks on. He can't really... You get the sense that he's in hell from the very beginning.
So here on the left, we got Joe Bob Briggs. His real name is
about him.
John Bloom. So Joe Bob Briggs is a legendary film reviewer who he invented this persona so that he could review drive-in movies. And they would go in the back of the Texas paper where he worked in the entertainment section. So it took a while for people to even notice that this thing was there. And it became a cult hit because he always wanted to write about just the goofiest movies like Mad Monkey Kung Fu and stuff like that. So he was doing a show, I think, for TBS talking about horror films, and that gig had dried up. And so he went on the market. All right.
Can I just stop you one second?
Rare moment of eroticism from Scorsese.
Right, and that's supposed to be the senator from Utah that just retired, or the senator he was a Democratic senator, Harry Reid. This is played by one of the Smothers brothers. Apparently Harry Reid was what was he, a councilman, or I forget what he was at this time. Was he a congressman?
No, he was a councilman, right? Because he was at the hearing
Right.
for Sam's license. Which, if
Right.
Sam had behaved better, he wouldn't have
Mm.
needed to have a hearing.
He looks a little like Harry Reid, although he's got a mustache. I don't know if Harry Reid had a mustache, but apparently Harry Reid was well taken care of by the mob. There's Fujikawa the whale.
So later on, when we get to another scene with John Bloom, we'll circle around to that. So we get Don Rickles acting. Don Rickles, it's hard not to absolutely love him. He has, I don't know how many lines he has. He's probably got under 30 words of dialogue in the whole movie.
He's compelling when he's just sort of staring. You know, he's just sort of looks like this toad. He's sort of hunched a little bit.
And he's not doing the Don Rickles persona. So he was in the two top movies of the summer of '95, which was
Right.
Toy Story and Casino. And he proudly announced that fact to anyone who would listen.
That's his pension right there. Although he was doing Don Rickles in that scene when he says, "Oh, better here than up there," when he's talking to Ichikawa. But yeah, he's known as a guy who just doesn't shut up. You know, I mean, when he goes on Carson or the roast shows, he just talks incessantly, and it's really good to have him kind of just holding back in this film.
So what I love about this, Sam, is, and actually, it's this scene that kept me from gambling when I went to Vegas.
You didn't want to be a billionaire?
Keep them playing until the house has everything. Here we got a classic Mount Rushmore profile shot.
A Vegas mafiosi.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's a graduate seminar paper here on the panopticon and its use in Casino. My apologies to anyone who's triggered by Foucault.
Well, the idea of the panopticon is that you're supposed to self-police, right? And
you're
you
being
can't
watched.
Get everyone to self-police. Yeah,
well, if you
internalize you internalize the camera, and these guys think that they can fool the camera. And we all think we can fool the camera. There's people who do things. I just went through a red light today, okay? And I know the camera went off, and I'm still trying to convince myself that the camera did not see me break the law. You know? I'll be saying that for the next 3 months until I get the thing in the mail, you know? But no amount of watching, no amount of policing, no amount of, and look who it's centered on is precisely the person he can't watch closely enough. He can never see everything she's doing. She always gets beyond his grasp, right? And we see her in her mode, and now this screen goes silent, right? He's smitten.
This is the most traumatic thing Sam can experience is someone cheating his casino. So
he likes the cheat sheets. He likes the cheat sheets. Look at him. He likes that.
He doesn't like that she cheats. I think he likes her nerve.
Her nerve, yeah.
And so it's not really maybe it's the cheating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, trying to game the system, but it's what happens when she's caught that seems to seal it, which, you poor hopeless bastard.
Yeah, I was just listening to a song today called Fun to Be Fooled. It's a classic jazz kind of pop song. And that's sort of part of her attraction. It'd be fun to be fooled by her.
This guy is so into the confrontation with her. Yeah, he's going to go down, try and pick up the chips. Meanwhile, he's got stacks and stacks of chips still on the table. Why don't you grab the big, giant stack of chips?
And there's the big orgasm. Throwing the chips into the air. The thing that needs to be said about the real-life counterpart of this character is that she's actually quite an interesting and admirable person. Her name is Jerry, and she did this sort of thing, going around being a lucky charm for men at casinos, performing. I think she was a dancer as well. And she would make $300,000 or $400,000 a year doing this. She made a lot of money. I don't think she needed Sam Rothstein's money. Yeah, I don't think she needed his money. And she was supporting her mother, her children, her sister. She carried a whole household. From what I got from Pileggi's book, she really was a compelling person. She wasn't just this kind of casino slut who needed her little, like this scene where she's getting her little pin money for making out with him. Yeah. This is the most erotic scene between the two of them. It's him peeling off, right? Peeling off 50s or 100s, whatever. Otherwise, there's no chemistry whatsoever.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't get any Kavorka, any whatever from De Niro in this movie. He has no testes, no testosterone.
There's one really tender moment. I'll try and point it out to you.
Okay.
But in essence, you are correct that this is really about them trying to game each other, and they're tricking each other into being together. Really, Sam just wants to hang out with Billy Sherbert and Showgirls, like.
Right. Yeah, see, that's, he knows it's bullshit.
Yeah, well, it's his casino. He probably actually asked. Did the research.
Taking care of people.
So, yeah, we're still in the expositional part of the film where we're learning about Vegas and Sam's understanding of the psychology of people. Ichikawa, who can't stop betting because betting small is equated with losing. Because if you're betting bigger, then you would be winning more, which is a recipe for going broke.
Right. It's got no connection to any plot here, right? I mean, this does. I think this does. But Ichikawa certainly is just a really amusing anecdote about how casinos work.
It develops the world and of the story and lets you know a little bit about what Sam is up against, so that when his personal life becomes a distraction, James Woods is immaculately sleazy in this film. Is it the mustache or is it the?
It's that little greasy little fetlock hanging down the front. He's a really repulsive. And is that a fishnet shirt he's wearing there? Do you see like the holes there?
Yeah.
Good God in heaven, he's so repulsive. Knowing what a repulsive person he is in real life doesn't help. But he really, and his sort of pockmarked face. Yeah, it does help. It does help. I mean, it doesn't help.
It doesn't help us sympathize with him, but yeah, it helps like a horror movie,
Yeah. It's interesting that these characters are so, in a movie that's so violent and so over the top and so energetic, that is really about very weak people, The weakness of Sam and then her weakness for her ex is just like fate. They're never going to get over that weakness.
Well, these are like classic Shakespearean tragic figures, right? They're incredibly strong, but their one area of weakness will fuck them up.
This is how me and my wife come back from every vacation. I shake her head into a giant napkin. And this is what Nicky was. I mean, Nicky was a jewel thief. You wonder, he was in the mafia. That's not a job, right? I mean, you have to do something, and so what he would do is he just literally rob places. He was just a bank robber.
The mafia is kind of a company you work for, but it's not a job title.
It's sort of like being a real estate agent, right? You're a contract worker.
Maybe
you're sworn in, but you have to.
Back to the Last Supper, yeah.
The eternal Last Supper. There's just 5. Not as many disciples.
Well, the more people you invite, sooner or later you end up with Judas. And
I think part of this scene reminds. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, my friend. But I think this scene reminds us a little bit of what's left out, or where this film doesn't seem to succeed, where Goodfellas does. Goodfellas has that initial phase of like the cozy 1950s New York, and they're at home in their world, and then at the end you get all this disgusting, tasteless, glitzy, horrible 70s shit that they were purchasing. Whereas this whole world is that, there's no like ethnic connection. These are ethnic anomalies, these guys, right? You have this Jewish guy, you have this Italian guy, and they seem like big, gassy kind of, out of place sort of characters in this world of totally deracinated style. If that makes any sense, right? It's not a kind of style that has any connection in anybody's lived life. It's just totally like a hallucination,
Well, that's Vegas. Now,
there's nobody here to see us. Did you hear that, my friend? A little bit of a motif there.
Yeah, listen to the rationalizations. What am I going to do? I'm not going to do anything. And then, proving he was lying, I'm not going to do anything that will involve you.
Nicky, I feel the more I watch this movie, the more I think he's closer to a hero than Sam Rothstein is. I feel. And
Nicky has a code.
I would like you to fight me over that. Say, look, this is how I'd like to handle my little financial disputes.
I'm Stan? No. So let's talk about Scorsese's casting, because this guy, he's this close to being a caricature, and Frank Vincent, that close to being a caricature. Joe Pesci isn't, but he acts enough to make up the difference.
Well, Joe Pesci, I mean, I think he's one of the great actors of our time. I mean, I think he's just fantastic. But he is so imitatable, right? He's almost become a caricature, right? Where people kind of confuse this character with his previous one just because he's got that high-pitched voice and he's extremely violent. This sort of scene was nowhere near Goodfellas, right? Here, you see Nicky's really a family kind of guy.
And if he's supposed to have a Chicago accent, well, it's not that strong a Chicago accent.
It's not that great.
Still
it's not that
sounds kind of New York.
It does. He dips into just straight New York every once in a while, but when he's narrating, he sounds more Chicago. He tries to do something, like he does something kind of.
But if we go back, right? I mean, and jeez, look at him, and his hand is in the same shape it was when he stabbed that guy with a pen.
These two fucking balloon heads. You're over here.
And I love the
You're over here now.
way that mob dialogue is completely vague on the surface, but everyone knows what he means.
Mm. It's a language worth commenting on, right? Because on the one hand, you get this utterly blunt, violent sort of language, but then you get a lot of this comical holding back and kind of, we all know what we're doing here, but we're not going to say it. I mean, there's one insight that Scorsese has is that the mafia it's filled with idiots. It's not, and that's an important insight. They're just fucking idiots.
Well, I don't know about idiots. They're average guys. They're not criminal masterminds.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Okay, right. So you don't have any Vito Corleones, in the mafia, basically. Maybe you had one in the history of the mafia.
You've got some Fredos.
You've got a lot of Fredos.
But, if you think of Raging Bull, right? I mean, Joe Pesci has this completely broad range of characters he's played. That horrible character from the Lethal Weapon movies, which I bring up not because I remember it fondly, but because it was a colorful character that was completely unrelated, right, to the kind of characters he's played in here, I think, in Goodfellas.
No, he's a very powerful personality, right? So can you distinguish Nicky from the character he played in Goodfellas from the character he played in Easy Money? In a way, he's such a powerful personality that you always see Pesci, but
I'm gonna push back on the Easy Money. That was a completely different character.
It is a completely different character. I'm just saying that there's just something about his personality that's just, you always remember him. I mean,
So we got more surveillance, and this is really brilliant film editing here, where something we can't possibly physically see, right? And without drawing much attention to it, we're seeing this homemade communication device, probably Morse code. Where,
and here we have this lighting here.
Here we got a spotlight.
Right on this poor shaggy guy.
It's kind of like the lions approaching the herd. The weak antelope at the edge of the herd. So among the 62 songs, this is considered one of them.
Happy Birthday.
Yeah.
Happy Birthday is one of the songs you'd have to pay royalties to that woman if you sang the version that we all sing. So it's why a lot of times in films you hear a version that's not quite that version, or you'll hear the version by what's his name, the blind guy. I can't remember his name now that I'm being recorded. Stevie Wonder. Which is a Martin Luther King thing. A little cattle prod will get a guy out of his seat. Well, it's interesting that they have to preserve the illusion for the rest of the gamblers, right? They don't make this arrest public. Right? They make it seem as though he's having some sort of heart attack, or
it's also not going to be an arrest, so they need to.
Right, exactly. So you see an arrest in plain view, but it's not registering as an arrest to everybody, because that would be a violation of their fantasy world that they're in. Arrests don't happen, right?
Yeah.
This is somebody being escorted out, who's having physical difficulties, and then you get the backstage. Right. I love this. Where he gets this. The sound of it is just bone chilling.
Yeah, I think I would have let him get a little bit closer with the saw before he turned it off.
Just hearing it would make me scream like I was on fire.
This is such a horrible, terrifying scene. So you're right-handed. Don't answer the question.
Always say you're a lefty, or whatever the opposite is of what you actually are.
Sam would not have bought that.
Right. He would have known that he scratched his nose with his right hand, and
some more fine acting from Don Rickles.
The smile on his face.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, he chose some real Mr. Vegases, right? Don Rickles was a real Mr. Vegas.
Alan King?
Performer. Yeah. Alan King, another Mr. Vegas kind of guy. It's as though that he takes the face of Vegas and then shows you its obverse, right? You get the Don Rickles ha-ha happy insult hour, and it's Don Rickles, and you register it as Don Rickles. But then his character is this very dour,
look at the lighting.
guy.
It's on the back of his neck, on his widow's peak, and on his hand. Yeah, with the casting, and this is
that particular.
It's a trait he shares with Tarantino. And I'm not saying this is an idea he got from Tarantino. Like, he was doing this right after Hours had Cheech and Chong, and Scorsese just loves to curate.
He casts Bo Dietl. He casts all kinds of interesting people.
IQ Jones.
Yeah.
Who appears
a lot of
later in the film.
non-actors he has in these films. You know, Gadji, as we pointed out before, is not an actor.
Here we got Sharon Stone as Ginger, which we haven't talked much about. Sharon Stone's performance, I think she was nominated for an Oscar or won a Golden Globe or something, but, you know, I never liked her before this film. Like, I didn't hate her.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, glitzy actress, and okay, I'm not impressed by the movie I'm supposed to be impressed by. And, you know, I don't think this is that sympathetic of a character, and yet Sharon Stone manages to be both kind of agonizingly beautiful and really conveying going through hell.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that she's not sympathetic, I do attribute to, that's a flaw in the makers of the film. Again, I do think that she is in real life a tremendously sympathetic person, given, well, I mean, even if you just take what they represent in the film. I mean, you're going to marry this guy in a velveteen smoking jacket who has zero sex appeal, you know.
Yeah,
you get the sense that she has real feelings. So even though she's with that weasel, played by James Woods, you at least get the sense that she has real feelings.
Not
Whereas
James
with
Wood,
Sam,
the literary critic. Yeah.
Not James Wood, the literary critic. That I could not understand why she would want to be with James Wood. You know, he just talks about Saul Bellow all day long. You know, enough already. Okay, we get it. Mr. Samler is a good character. But no, Sam, I don't know of anything that he feels anything authentically about, except maybe, well, her. But she clearly doesn't love him, and we can all see that from the first second of the film, or the first second of their interaction. This is like a very old-fashioned kind of marriage proposal here, right?
He's setting it up like a business proposition.
It's a business proposition. This is the real unveiling, the tearing off of the veil here of like what marriage is really about in those days and what it's about now.
And here we've got kind of a slow motion horror shot, and she's smiling. He isn't.
And he's saying he knows, but he can change her. And that is exactly the opposite of how he operates in the rest of his life. He knows what reality is, and he adapts to it. Right? In this one case, he can't.
Well, I think that's what he expects from love, is it's not going to work the way gambling works.
Yeah, it's very sentimental in that way. He's a sentimentalist. He thinks that this is somehow separate from everything else he's doing, and it's not.
And unfortunately, despite the fact that the way he's interpreting it, you know, is sentimental, he's still approaching it like a gambler. Whereas if he just told her more about how he felt, if he tried to romance her, it might work.
Hey, John, if you ever want to spontaneously make yourself throw up, just get naked, okay? Start pleasuring yourself, and then imagine James Woods saying, "Can you feel me in your heart? Can you feel me in there?" Right? And you'll just never stop throwing up. Right?
I have this on my phone as the alarm I wake up to every morning, actually. So.
Can you feel me in there? Everybody's a patsy in this film. Everybody's getting conned and let themselves get conned. She's getting conned right now.
Sam, the beginning of the marital surveillance.
Mm-hmm.
So, I am not sure how I feel about this dress. Was this her wedding dress, or is this a separate dress for the reception?
I don't have any strong feelings about this dress.
Really short skirt.
She literally hustles chips from people for a living. She's a dancer. She's, this is Vegas, baby.
No, what I'm saying is, like it somehow looks tasteful, and yet it's like super sexy. Mm-hmm. She's, it looks like she's, the veil is still stuck to her hat. And she's drinking a lot.
Well, when Lester says, I can see you 14 years old, when you're 14 years old, you think, number one, that's a gross thing for Lester to be saying. It's basically pedophilic. But on the other hand,
to Harvey Keitel in Taxi Driver.
Yeah. On the other hand, you get the sense that she's also, as she just said, I've known him since I was a kid. There's something about her and Lester that's very much about like being a kid. Or at least she thinks of it that way, right? And she can't control herself. And I do feel tremendous sympathy for her as a character. I really do. She's marrying somebody she does not want to marry. This is a very horrific situation to be in,
House is cute.
But we have contempt for people who like things, right? Look at she likes pretty expensive things, and we think, oh, we can hate this character. But
I hate her because of the dress she's wearing now. So I like the wedding dress,
really?
But this is...
Oh, John.
It looks like a rainbow threw up.
Unfriend, John. Unfriend. Look at the boots, baby. Come on.
Oh, boots are fine. And
what
the
kind of fur is
fine.
this? Is this like the Cruella de Vil?
How many animals suffered so that I could have a coat?
Do they actually suffer? I mean, you kill them. Aren't they dead? Are they suffering? What's the whole story with fur? Give us the lowdown, John.
Okay. Well,
do they scorch them? What do they do?
We'll have to include a link to to our viewers here. So Here we have Sam. Yeah. All right. This is the exact lack of chemistry you were talking about. Mm. Sam getting extra affectionate.
Did you have parents like this, by the way? Did they have interactions like this? Like, did you? I came from a little bit of money. My parents sort of were like penny millionaires, and my father would often, he would splurge on my mother and buy her things like this, like lots of jewelry, she gave her a mink, a mink that cost more than your house, as Mrs. Bluth would say, stuff like that. And it was something. Much. No, you didn't have that kind of splurging on a woman.
My mother had very deliberate taste in jewelry, and my father made up his mind at a certain point, like, I'm buying no more jewelry for you ever.
Oh, okay.
Like, I will happily give you money if you want jewelry. Like, I will, if I have to go out and kill someone, I will go out and kill someone for that money.
I wonder if gone are the days of the man who would buy for the woman, right? Most men I would know would just say, okay, I'll get you something that, you pick out or something like that. This is like, my father would often pick things out for a woman. Like, he knew it was best for the woman.
That's an interesting fun phase as long as it's not serious, Like a $50 outfit, maybe.
Go ahead.
But not for jewelry. Like, no.
No. The most fun they have is with money and things. And it's genuine, right?
Well, he loves her, and he takes pleasure in her taking pleasure. And he doesn't give her pleasure, but the things give her pleasure. And
we need a woman on this podcast. We need a woman to tell us whether De Niro can get it, because I don't get any sex from him at all. I don't get any sexiness exuding from him here or in almost anything he does.
Not even with the outfits?
With these outfits? I mean, I would kill for those outfits. I mean, but would a normal woman want to be with this man? I mean, I could see why they want to be with the young Vito Corleone. That was very sexy. But this is an interestingly, dead inside sort of guy that he's playing.
Well, he's a control freak.
This is Jerry Vale, the actual Jerry Vale, I think.
Yeah, well, in Goodfellas, right? He actually got Henny Youngman. All right.
He actually got the real Henny Youngman. Play Henny Youngman.
Fucking lighting here. Like, okay. On the neck of his tie and his hand.
and he's static, and the camera's moving.
The camera's almost always moving in this film, and it's amazing how effective and how, you know, I don't I don't get seasick watching it.
No. Well, the contrast there is really interesting. You have this old sentimental Italian crooner, right, singing the kind of standard that we all know and love, but in the midst of all this is something very dirty happening, you know? It's always interesting to see, you know, these mafia stories. They always seem to take place in areas that we have no access to, but it's happening in front of us, you know, is sort of the message, I think.
What they were showing there was a lounge, right, which wasn't separate from, you know, it wasn't like a separate room with a stage. It was near a bar, and, you know, it was meant to plus the whole casino going experience. And they were just so filthy with entertainers
right.
that they could have, like, okay, yeah, tonight we're going to have our star playing, you know, in the big room, but, you know, kind of for all right, more anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
All right. Now,
a lot of the anti-Semitism in this film.
I take so much pleasure
on the surface
from this scene and what's coming to this cowboy.
I think his white socks are the most. It's the best choice.
They're not.
The fact that he's wearing white socks is the most offensive to these guys.
Fucking asshole won't budge. They are clean white socks, which makes it okay. Like,
are they clean? I see a little bit of
clean enough.
Clean enough. Okay.
Just imagine, all right, this mook walking around, and he takes his boots off, and what his socks are likely to look like. They're likely to look worse than that.
Let me ask a quick question for our for you and our listeners. What, if you can comment on this? What is the offensiveness status of the word mook? is that an offensive term now? Because it sounds pretty bad, but I don't know what it means.
It was, I don't know, it's been around since the 70s. Yeah, and they actually opened his door with his fucking head. Yeah. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did.
He's holding the phone.
Look at how huge this guy is and how small Joe Pesci is. So
I think his status as Hick is the worst thing about him, right? It's like they keep, you know, he calls him a faggot, and then the worst thing you can call this guy is a Hick, which is just a real term of offense.
Well, because he is a Hick, right?
He is, but yeah.
Like any guy you could call a faggot, and it's kind of offensive.
That tiger always scares the shit out of me. It always makes me jump. Now, those are the real guys, right? Is that the real whoever the hell those guys are? Or are they actors playing them? I can't remember their names anymore, but one of them
Siegfried and Roy?
died.
Those are Siegfried and Roy. No, it's not Siegfried and Roy.
No, but it's meant to be them.
I think so, yeah. So what we have here is the entertainment world brushing up against Sam's managerial style.
Yeah. Sam's micromanaging. He micromanages the weight, the muffins.
The muffins.
Everything.
Look at
which is part of his insanity as a character, right? I mean, you have to read this character is insane. look at how complex this world is. Look at how vast it is, right? And he's trying to control every calorie that goes into the body of these dancers.
All right. Here we got a spinning camera deliberately meant to fuck us up. So we're so used to, at this point, cameras moving around that Scorsese's trying to throw us off here.
Louis Prima playing. I mean, we meant to laugh at this, and there's always a weird feeling you have about violence in Scorsese's films, right? Are you supposed to be laughing at it? Is there some you're supposed to laugh at, and some you're supposed to really find too difficult to watch?
I think he loves when both happen, especially at the same time.
Because I know that the violence, I know what happens to Nicky is for Scorsese just an absolute outer limit. Just an end of something. Whereas the other kinds of violence, the guy with his head in a vice, and that scene there was definitely meant to be kind of a fun scene of violence, with the Louis Prima blasting, and they're enjoying just wrecking his car. And,
Louis Prima, I cherish him, but there's something cartoony about his musical style, that raspy voice. Right. He performed for years with Keely Smith, who was just a really talented singer, and he's this, howling lunatic. He was King Louie in Walt Disney's The Jungle Book,
right.
And just incredibly memorable. So
all the great American singers can't sing. They're not singers. Is that too much a generalization? But I mean, come on.
I'm not going to allow that for Frank Sinatra. I'm not going to allow that.
Frank Sinatra could sing for about 6 years. Okay, and then he was done.
All right, we're going to have to shelve this conversation. So, I think this is Sharon Stone looking her most glamorous in this film. Looks like maybe she's wearing pancake makeup. I mean, she barely looks human. And I don't mean that in a bad way exactly.
Well, there is a sense, at least here, that things are going all right.
Well, without it, I don't think we would last through the rest of the movie.
And I know this guy's screwed.
So, was he being sarcastic when he said nice kid, or did he mean it and then get paranoid?
Nice kid, bright boy. I don't know how to read it. No, he was a nice kid, bright boy, but that's not enough.
Yeah. So micromanaging. So back to John Bloom. So, his TV show had ended, and Scorsese was a fan of his writing, and Scorsese loves exploitation movies. So he brought him in for an interview, an audition, and they did a little of this, a little of that, and then he wanted to talk about Caged Heat, a women's prison exploitation movie starring Pam Grier.
So there's the right way, the wrong way, and then Rothstein's way.
That
what
makes no sense. There's my way and the wrong way. It doesn't mean anything other than I'm insane, and you will respect my tyranny. That's all that means. Because semantically, it's meaningless.
Well, it's about control, right? Again,
there's the right way and the wrong way. And my way is the right way, except
my way might overlap with both of those. It might be the wrong way, it might be the right way, but you're going to do it.
All right. So I think this is the crux of the film here. In that, I think Nicky wants to be close to Sam. Nicky thinks Sam is a friend, and he calls him a friend, and Sam never calls Nicky a friend. And, right, he's got his crew out here, fine, but right? Sam is his guy from back home, and Sam is his most successful friend around here, and Nicky's really successful. And what he wants is Sam's esteem. And he wants Sam to demonstrate that he cares about him. So I think him loitering in those casinos and, like he's trying to get, what's going on with that light? Looks like a drive-in movie theater, like a projection there.
I was just going to say that. It looks like a projector. Well, look, Nicky is a dying animal. Nicky is not needed in the world of gambling. And that's confirmed at the end of the film. We don't have these dirty, irrational, violent guys running Vegas anymore. It's all corporate. It's all, they were a dying breed. It's almost the minute they got out there.
He and Sam he and Sam both broke the cardinal rule. Keep it quiet.
Mm. No, and both in their own ways, they couldn't keep things quiet.
Bernie Blue. So here we have
the Gold Rush.
Nicky going through all of this exposition, and you have all of this camera work to keep it interesting.
This is what Dad does for a living. By the way, this sort of thing happens during the daytime. For those viewers out there who are concerned about your jewelry and your house being robbed, nothing happens at night. It's all during the day when you're not there.
So this is the freakiest scene, because you got just all of these absolutely ordinary people working in Vegas who are working as moles for Nicky.
Can we talk about the phone use in this film? Look at all the phones. I mean, right? There must be 20 phones in this one
budget for
sequence.
Vintage phones.
No, but it's all about, like, how do you convey this story when everything's conveyed on the phone, on the sly? And he does it so well. He just had 15 conversations in 40 seconds, and to show that information chain. How do you show how information gets around? What's the circuitry?
I think that's one of the reasons why I prefer this to Goodfellas, is like he's doing a lot of what he was doing in Goodfellas. It's a different story, but he's taking what he learned and he's just, upping his game and being more ambitious in terms of just how much story he's squeezing out of there.
Look, I think it's just racism that people think it's the same thing as Goodfellas, because they're like, oh, it's about Italians, so therefore it's the same movie, it's so he's unique to the point of, he's Scorsese, he has a style. So we automatically think he's repeating himself, but I don't see a lot of Goodfellas in this film, to be quite honest. Maybe I've watched this film too much, but there's just a lot of this film that just doesn't have anything in common with Goodfellas. And Goodfellas is a great, great film.
Well, I think maybe casual viewers don't see enough of a difference.
What's the movie you compare this to? You said this is a remake of something, or did you say this is a remake of Age of Innocence, or what'd you say was the remake of Age of Innocence? That was
No. He made an adaptation of Age of Innocence before this.
Of course. But you're saying that in Scorsese's, life work, that certain films of his are kind of repetitions of earlier films, but it's not what you'd think. So people think that this film is a remake, effectively, of Goodfellas, like a retread. And you had said something witty about how I can't remember what it is, but anyway, it's funny that you found connections, in other words, among Scorsese's films that I didn't see quite. Like, for example, the lighting in this film, in Age of Innocence, I would not have remembered. I often think of The Departed when I think of the lighting in this film, and the kind of movement, the dynamic, almost panicked conveying of information of the complexity of the situation.
Well, that was Scorsese returning to the gangster form, the gangster genre, almost reluctantly. He said that he took the violence so far in this, and he kind of wasn't interested in, telling those kind of stories. But it's kind of like Clint Eastwood didn't feel like making any more Westerns, and then Unforgiven came along. And it's like, all right,
Yeah.
well, like,
I think real artists are about finding limits. You know, they find the outer limit. They have to find the outer limit. And Scorsese, for Scorsese, he found his limit. You know, with this film, he found his outer limit with that sort of violence. And interestingly enough, he made The Departed. He was sort of depressed when he finished it. He really just said it was unbearable. How dark that film was. He really, I don't think he likes that film. You know, I think he was really ready to do something like Hugo or whatever the hell came shortly after that, or you know, a documentary about somebody or whatever.
Well, I think he wants to leave the possibility of redemption.
Right. Here's the most referenced scene in conversations among men in America. Whenever the word milk-fed veal comes up.
Oh, man, what a horrible context for that conversation.
Milk-fed veal.
But Nicky's all about oral pleasure, right? I guess...
He gets 2 blowjobs in this movie, correct?
Yeah. And just how quickly, like, oh, and now I get to have this.
Right.
Seems to happen.
He just guides the head, you know? There is something really vulgar about portraying a blowjob. There really is. The blowjob is like as the height of the moron Goomba life that, you know, Nicky leads. You know, like blowjob is like his, you know, ultimate, you know, spiritual experience. Although he does get some hot sex with Sharon Stone in one scene.
Yeah. So here he's mind-fucking this guy.
What he's mind-fucking him about is exactly what Nicky is. He's not speaking hypocritically, because this is what Nicky is, right? Nicky wouldn't do something like that to his family, right? He's saying, like, he's basically shaming the guy for his degenerate gambling habit. And this guy will, you know, shoot and murder people, but he'll be there to make his kid pancakes in the morning, which, you know, even I can't relate to. I have 2 kids. I can't relate to that sort of feeling.
Fuck them.
Back home again. Back home. Well, what it reminds us of is that they're not home.
Yeah.
That's kind of an interesting idea. Where are they? You know, they're far from home. They're aliens in this place.
Well, IQ Jones will bring that point back to them. Yeah.
Mm. Tony Dogg's the new maniac.
In other words, the guy who thought he could be Nicky.
Mm-hmm. Now, I believe this is in the real story. This is in Chicago. Again, this is, back home. So this is many years ago. And this is how Nicky
got made.
In real life, he's called Spilotro. This is how he makes his bones. This is some Irish guy that he just dismantles.
So I don't know if it's me and my own strong stomach, but, you know, I remember when this came out, a lot of people complained about this scene as having gone too far and being too violent. And graphically, I don't like... It didn't make me wince.
He has to tell him that he has his head in a fucking vice. Right?
He may not know. Yeah, and I think they have an effect, right, for the eye coming out, but they really don't show it.
Slitting his throat is a favor. I love that. Ice picking his balls, pop his eye out. What's interesting is that that's one of the more talked about scenes in the film, and we have very little to say about it, right? We just sort of marvel at it, we laugh at it, and we squirm. Although you don't squirm, right?
I'm capable
you're
of
a tough
squirming,
guy.
but that scene doesn't make me squirm.
When he says we stuck an ice pick in his balls, that actually affects me more than the vice. Here's the end of Joe Bob.
And what Sam can't quite grasp is this guy really is this stupid.
But Sam doesn't know the bigger scam. Sam doesn't care about the bigger scam. He doesn't understand that the whole thing is a casino, right? He doesn't see the politics as being part of this, right? He thinks it can be abstracted from that somehow. That's another flaw of his. He's the dumb yokel when it comes to real life outside the casino, right? And he'll be made to feel that.
He was told by Andy Stone no one would interfere with him running the casino, and that wasn't strictly true. And he's kind of a baby about it.
Yeah, but that's not how the world works.
Nope.
See, now you see this scene happens in this context with the blueberries.
He really doesn't want to think about the thing he can't control. He's got a muffin situation he can control.
Love the face of this guy. Perfect face. This chef.
I love it with a haircut. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's where we get signs that things are not okay with her. She sort of disappeared for a little while, right? She was tucked away, narratively speaking.
Yep. So keep in mind, the last scene was about him being upset that there weren't an equal number of blueberries in each muffin. Mm-hmm. She wants $25,000. No questions asked.
I mean, look at the life he gets to live, and look at the life she has to live with this boring baby. And look, there's even Pepto-Bismol on the table.
I think that's for him. Yeah.
Yeah, his favorite drink, right? Milk, Pepto-Bismol.
I love this. Well, now babies. I want you to tell me. So is that a robe or is that a smoking jacket?
I think everything was a smoking jacket in 1971. There needs to be more smoking in this movie. I like how he's like the richest guy in Las Vegas, and look at the shitty cabinets he has. That would be a tear out job now. We just get rid of that immediately.
What?
Yeah, those aren't in anymore, John. Come on, look at those babies.
They're real wood. It's classic.
You can get that in any apartment in Chicago.
And I'm going to argue it's cool in Chicago too.
Oh man.
Yep.
Give a little.
And so musically, we're dipping back into the 50s.
Mm.
And Nicky's starting to get the skunk stripe in his hair.
Can you imagine, sending a top mafia boss to just spy on your wife? I mean, the lengths he needs to go to. Red on red.
So this has got to be the 80s, the color scheme.
It can't be
early 80s.
Yeah, the color scheme maybe, but I don't think we're there yet. I think they break up in the late 70s. I'm not sure exactly when.
Well, the movie isn't necessarily towing that
no,
official, actual timeline.
Exactly. He's dressed like the Love Boat.
So the white denim jacket with the fucking giant epaulettes. All right, I'm getting a traumatic flashbacks. It's very late 70s.
To what? Your loss of your virginity, or what? What are you remembering?
Back when I was like 7. So yeah, the loss of my virginity. You know.
Just anal. Just you know.
I'm sure I had a shirt that was the equivalent of that jacket.
Are you serious?
Absolutely.
Jesus God. I had so many more embarrassing things though, like a Benetton shirt.
Here's your favorite line. Don't be a fucking pimp.
It's not so much my favorite line, it's just what I teach my child and what my father taught me. And it doesn't matter because we all turned out to be pimps, you know? Be a man, don't be a fucking pimp. It's a sure recipe for turning a guy into a pimp, you know? I love how he walks out here. That's how I walk out of every restaurant.
And he's experienced enough to know he's got an ass whooping coming, that these guys are not just going to stand there.
Right. Yeah, it's very delicious.
Those guys who are standing around are with him. So we're about to see the one real flaw, I think, in the film.
What?
She's going to run to him, and then Sam is supposed to stop her, but she stops because he doesn't grab her, and she's just going to stay there.
Wait. Oh, I see. That little shot right there.
Yeah. Well,
do you think that's a flaw?
A little bit. Like, he was supposed to grab her at that mark, and it kind of didn't work out with the timing perfectly, and she just kind of slowly loses it without running over there, even though that's what she started to do because she knew she needed to be grabbed by Sam, by De Niro.
I think that can be justified in real life. I think that you can say the same thing for the character that she's playing. Maybe. She knows she's supposed to be grabbed by her husband, but she's performing this. Maybe, I don't know. I that's an interesting criticism, I have to say. I never noticed it myself.
Well, it's not like it's like a half second too late.
It is.
So it's not like I can understand why Scorsese would.
All right. Is this Jefferson Airplane or the Moody Blues playing now? What's playing now? This is where we get into the drugs. Moody Blues, right?
Moody Blues, yeah.
This is where in Scorsese movies you get into the drugs. The real drugs.
I love how, calm and philosophical.
Yeah. I love how big his collar is. It's like a Trump collar, like one of those big ass, giant, high collars.
I remember those.
I wish I had the money for collars like that. Look at that. God. I look pretty fine.
Go down to Goodwill. Yeah, and so in this movie, right, in Goodfellas, he kind of had captions like 1980s, right? Like we're switching into a new decade, where here it's kind of subtle indicators like this is just a sleazy, trashy outfit she's got on that doesn't, like, she's been sexy in the way she's dressed before, but there was kind of a elegance to it, and this is just...
She's getting sloppy. She turns into a very sloppy, sad character, right? Especially when she cuts her hair and she's sort of a complete drunk and a drug addict.
Oh, the 1980s short hair. Oh, that was such a sad time in America.
Yes.
And I don't mean to be sexist when I say that. I once had long hair. Of course, it was a mullet.
You're sexist when you say everything, John.
Well, that is true.
You're one of our great heroes in the misandry movement. The movement against misandry. Hope your viewers know that we're kidding. Viewers, can we even call them viewers, or they're listeners?
They're both.
But are they even listeners? These people, these
only if they're
fucking
listening.
Assholes. You call fans. Hi, everyone.
You can direct all of your comments to Patrick Jehle.
Hey, it's great they can't spell my last name. Let's get back to this love scene, quote unquote. She's got to be
She's
6 inches taller than him.
Stroking the lapels.
He has sponsor written all over his skunk patch.
She needs a AA sponsor. She doesn't need a gangster sponsor.
Well, where else is she going to go? What's the other power source she can go to? Let me defend her. I think I'm going to write a whole book defending Ginger, Like, where is she going to go? Right? Because Lester is the shit male, right? He's the shitty male, whereas her husband sits around the office with no fucking pants on.
Hold on. This scene frightens me. The eyeball popping out, the balls with the ice pick in it, nope. But
these hot legs.
Sam in his office with those fucking socks and no pants on because he doesn't want to mess his pants up. Gives me the howling fantods. Oh my God.
And baby blue shoes.
Oh yeah. So here we got Pat Webb, who is a county commissioner, and he plays a lot of great sleazy characters over the years. He played one of the bounty hunters in The Wild Bunch.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was like one of the guys yanking boots off of dead people.
Right.
These are good ones.
You wonder how much like Scorsese is thinking, his viewers are drawing on that knowledge of who he's casting. Because Rickles and King, I would imagine people still knew kind of in the 90s who they were. Whereas some of these other guys, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the rationale behind the casting was. Maybe they're just the best people for the job. Who knows? But
all right,
I just wonder about.
Almost as frightening as the socks and the shoes and the no pants is the size of Webb's bolo tie here. The turquoise. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
That's a piece of turquoise right there. It looks like a whale molar.
So there you got the mailbox at the end of Sam's desk. And
Can you explain the sign that says yes, no in the background with the giant no?
No. I don't know officially what that means, right? But semiotically, right, the no's way bigger than the yes, and that follows the scene where Nicky does not go for Ginger, but he's hovering. He's wavering.
Mm.
And so, yeah, you kind of get what Sam would say.
Yeah. He also says no to him here. He says no a lot.
Yeah.
He can say no. And it's not good for him that he says no.
And here's where, Sam is sinking the whole thing. And I know who you are, but I cannot do that. Actually, you can. Like, how about you pay that guy to sit in a chair in a hotel room until the end of time, and you pay him $35,000 a year to not talk to anyone and just sit in the fucking chair. And you get a camera, and you just have the camera on him all the time, and you just watch him sitting in the fucking chair. And the entire casino empire gets to keep on rolling. You're all
I
our
love
guests,
this line.
but you ain't at home.
This feels like another crux in the film, right?
Yeah.
We've just been told how it works out here for the first hour and 10 minutes of this movie. And this guy's saying, you don't know really how it works out here. There's a sense in which they're all living a hallucination. They think they know. They think they have the backstage information, and they don't.
They have some.
They have some, but it's enough that just makes them dangerous. That's all. They don't have enough.
Or you just act appropriately, knowing what you know. The lighting in here is so weird.
Really? I think I don't know.
Maybe it's natural lighting, you know? I mean, it could
be early morning light, right? It would be low. It would be coming in laterally.
Although it's super fucking bright.
Yeah.
All right, that wallpaper is really frightening.
I think I'm your yang, man. Everything you say is frightening. I'm like, that's great. You know? And everything you say is horrifying. I'm like, wow, I wish I had blue shoes, walk around naked in my office.
So here we have Sam trying to help her and be sympathetic. He's not really equipped to do it. And she's kind of resistant.
That's all you care about is discreetness. Right?
How could you say that? You're a beautiful woman. Like, okay, that's... He's not, yeah. And then, yeah, attacking Lester again. That's not... So here he's
the leech. Right? He says, you don't need that leech living off you. But look at him. He's a leech. Look at her. He's on her. He's sucking the life out of her. Look at that. He's the leech, man.
What is it Dave Attell says? There's a fine line between holding someone really close and not letting them get away. So this is such a strangely shot, and you know, this might be the most intimate scene of the film. Well,
this is also close to a blowjob scene. I'm sorry, but it evokes the same structure.
All right, her head is in the crotchological area, but besides that, it's not really.
I think it's called crotchiferous, but I'll let it stand.
And now we get kind of reminders that all the crazy shit we learned about in the first hour is still going on. So we're like halfway through the movie at this point.
Mm.
Artie Pisano.
Notice how these guys are like always eating and like doing something very like
leakage my balls. I want the guy who's robbing us. So you got to give him some leeway.
Again, Artie Pisano he's
the Fredo of this picture. Oh.
Yeah, but I believe his name evokes Augie Paisano. I don't know I've read something about this, but Augie Paisano had died many years before. I don't know how he's supposed to be based on Augie Paisano, but he becomes a kind of the Jenga piece that brings the whole thing down. He's going to start keeping records, right?
Well, and his character, Martin Scorsese's mom, Catherine Scorsese, right, is playing that character's mom.
Right.
So we get some wonderful bits of dialogue with her. So Kevin Pollak does fine in this movie. He doesn't make that much of an impression.
Mm-hmm.
One of the really peculiar things, you know, is that he's hysterically funny. And he's an amazing impersonator.
Oh, yeah.
And his whole job here is to just play a boring front
That's
man.
exactly what all the funny men in this movie do. There's 3 comedians starring in this movie. right?
And they're playing
Great
straight.
comedians.
Absolutely straight.
Absolutely straight. That's the only way comedians can play in a movie in a movie at all. I mean, I think, look at Robin Williams or something. I mean, the best roles are always where he's just sort of not doing much.
Or he's insane. Fisher King. That's my favorite Robin Williams film.
Okay, I haven't seen that one. I'm going to show my ignorance. Sorry.
All right.
I'm a huge fan of everybody involved in that thing, Terry Gilliam and everybody, but here's a great friggin'... Why am I laughing?
Pop.
Why am I laughing at this?
Well, this is one of those cases where, Nicky is just flat out performing a hit, and it's so unrealistic. He puts 3 bullets through her brain, and there's a little bit of blood leaking out of her mouth. Like, right? In real life, this would be a little bit more like, Martin in Pulp Fiction. Do you think God really came down and stopped the blam? And just brain and gore everywhere is kind of how it would look.
Yeah,
it's a combination of the music and the way that Nicky swishes into that scene.
Yeah, I just love how he. Yeah,
it's almost like a dance.
Right, with his little cabbie hat on and his little leather jacket. But yeah, I mean, I don't think the brain leaks into the mouth. I don't think that's a thing that is physiologically accurate.
So behind Sam, we saw it in the previous scene too, he's got 2 wedding photos, which is a little bit telling because, all right, haven't you taken any more recent photos of you and your happy wife?
Well, he has a wedding photo of and he's got a child in the photo, his collateral.
Well, the child was at the wedding. So
I know, but it's, you think that'd be edited out for public photos of the wedding, but
filed for a license yet? So a little bit more anti-Semitism here.
Why is that anti-Semitic? Oh, that one. I think it just not filing things was an anti-Jewish thing. I was like,
no.
Jews don't file things, I guess? Is that the line?
Okay, that's clearly a robe. Okay. For some reason, I feel happy that I've verified that what he's wearing is so long that it's, in fact, not a smoking jacket.
Clean face.
Sam does not want this to happen.
This is the jump to conclusions guy from
Office Space.
Office Space. One of the great characters of the history of cinema.
So I think this may be the last absolutely cute look Sharon Stone has in the film. And it's this preppy kind of, tennis outfit.
Right.
And she's hammered and...
hammered in a tennis outfit.
Yeah. And for some reason, even though I don't know that I want to see that in real life...
Why would you not want to see that in real life? Why? What do you have against that?
Well, among other things, yeah, she's having a hard time negotiating the stairs, and I don't.
I think you just meant the tennis outfit. I just thought you meant the tennis outfit. Sorry.
No, I'm fine with people occasionally getting quite drunk and wearing a tennis outfit, but yeah, at the same time, kind of points what you were saying. She was getting really sloppy.
Oh, poor clean face.
Nicky's wearing a black pocket square. Look at that. And I actually own the same tie that guy's wearing. This is one of my favorite bits of dialogue in the whole movie.
I should explain to you exactly what it is I do.
All right, so
I think
the key to comedy is reaction shots. This wouldn't be funny if Sam wasn't in the room about to lose his shit.
I think the fact that this chubby guy is sort of like looking stone faced at Nikki as he's sort of smiling in that evil way. I think our commentary on this movie should just be laughing. We shouldn't say anything, just laugh. That's the only commentary on this film that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, the guy hasn't been showing Nikki respect, which is the thing Nikki can't stand.
Mm. There's the line. Where's your head? Where's your balls? You know, I mean, in some ways, you know, Scorsese really is influenced by Nikos Kazantzakis, right? I mean, he did The Last Temptation of Christ, which is a very Nietzschean story about Jesus, you know. And
that movie's mostly a blur to me. What I remember most is in the Resurrection of Lazarus, Willem Dafoe does this kind of kung fu move where he goes hoo-ha.
He does, yeah.
I got excited about that, and David Bowie was in it. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Well, Harry Dean Stanton kills Lazarus in the film, but one of the great lines when he says, you know, what was the afterlife? What was it like when he died? And he says, you know, to be honest, it wasn't that different, you know. And then the assassins stab Lazarus, who is, you know, cannot survive. He's an offense to the natural order. But no, the conflict between head and balls, you know, head and heart, however you want to put it, is important to Scorsese. It really is. It's that sort of conflict is central to his vision, and you see it the most in this film. I think it's the most Kazantzakis-like film. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with Zorba the Greek or any of his novels, but they're all about that sort of Nietzschean sort of clash. And
all that is done for love is beyond good and evil.
Is that an exact quote?
Well, it's translated from Nietzsche. I imagine it's German in Nietzsche.
It sounds much nicer in German. Like she says, you know, it's like Scorsese's mom in Goodfellas when she's like, "Shut up, you're always talking." But it sounds much nicer in Italian.
Sounds much nicer in Italian. See, now, if they were better friends, they probably could have talked this shit out.
You think they can talk stuff out? They're from different planets.
Well, at this point, you know, it's too far gone. Yeah, and Nikki's like, why should I wait for permission for anything? You know, like, nobody can see what I'm doing out here. That's the guy. That's the guy he loaned the money to, that he yelled at earlier.
Right.
So there's a family without a dad. I'm guessing Nikki thinks they're better off.
I love how he like helps one of the photographers here from getting hit by a car. Yeah. Watch yourself.
Past tense of run is runned.
I bet you Scorsese hired real mob lawyers to escort him out.
I love his face. Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. You know he did it, right? You know, like, you know he was like digging the hole.
Well, I don't think there was a hole. Otherwise, they wouldn't have found it. So the constant changing of the music just lends such a manic feeling to the whole damn thing.
Mm.
Right?
What's playing now? I don't know this.
This is Sammy Davis from Ocean's 11.
Oh yeah, I hear it. Yeah.
Little homage to classic Vegas films of
Classic
yesterday.
Vegas films, and this is the opposite of right anything that would ever appear in Ocean's 11, right?
Well,
Or
Ocean's
no,
11 was a caper film. I mean, it certainly
Sure.
wasn't
Oh, that's
this
true. Yeah.
brutal or honest.
Mm.
Ocean's 11 is, this adorable romp.
Wasn't there something involving like footprints being visible, like with some sort of
Yeah.
machine? Isn't that?
They were using this kind of fluorescent paint, which under
Yeah.
ultraviolet light, they could find their way in the dark using the right kind of glasses. If I can't work in Vegas, where am I going to go? Like, anywhere.
Well, that's another thing that's left out of the story is that
He's wearing a pink sweater over a pink shirt.
yeah, Lefty, who's the basis of Sam Rothstein, Lefty Rosenthal, his real name was, had been sort of chased out of various places. He'd done time, he'd gotten pinched. And so Vegas was kind of a clean start for him. He'd had quite a career back home. This was a sort of ultimate for him in a way. You had a lot of license out in Vegas. You could do a lot that you couldn't elsewhere. And sports betting, for one thing, was not legal in the rest of the country.
Yeah, I found that so depressing. I think I was at the Hilton, and it had one of those, like they were watching college football.
Yeah.
And there was this huge crowd of people watching the game, and they all had money on it, and it just felt like even more depressing than going to a sports bar.
Really? You don't like the fact that they were able to gamble on it? You found that depressing? That's interesting.
It felt depressed being there. Now, yeah, I come from, an Irish Boston family, and gambling's kind of in our blood, and
yeah.
So I don't like gambling. Now, my dad was good at it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He could count cards, so...
Oh, he'd get his hands, bashed.
Back in the day... Well, no, he would play like
Sam's
against
Casino.
his buddies and end up like winning everybody's paycheck in the room because he would like win a lot of money, and they're like, "Oh, you have to give us a chance to win our money back." And it's like, you realize that's also a chance for him to get all of your money. Because he could just do all the math in his head, and he knew what the odds were, and he was kind of this closeted math whiz.
His mother's great here.
Where are you going to get the shovel?
I like that their whole downfall is brought about by like sloppy Italianness, right? Like they're in a like a little Italian shop with all the tomato, and he knocks the thing over, and he's complaining like an Italian guy, and he's got. But
he's also anal retentive, right? That's the.
Yeah, his little marble notebook. But that's the thing you would think would be, an attribute that would be, something Sam would be a guy who has, a sense of the numbers and what's really going on. And, but that actually turns out to be the downfall of everything.
Well, Sam isn't allowed in the count room, which is partly why all of this is happening. Oh, all right. Officially, we are in 1980. My apologies for making up things about this movie.
No, but it's the exception that proves the rule.
What I love is everybody's in this scene, even though they don't have much acting to do.
No, they're just in the world. They're just there.
There's IQ Jones looking very satisfied.
Mm. This is part of his sin. This is part of his offense, I think, right here with Sam. You could disagree with me here, but Sam's whole life is about keeping up appearances, keeping up the performance, keeping up that surface, etc. And here he's trying to show the backstage of what really goes on. And this is not. You get the sense that he's losing it here, And now he's gonna have this talk show, right, where he's gonna expose all the lies of the world that he's profited off of.
Well, he's bought his own bullshit, right? It's morality car wash, and it's like, well, only until people start paying attention. So the rhetoric of the situation is a much different thing.
Well, Sam turns into a fool, right? And he looks like this sort of this foul ethnic fool, right?
Well,
his ethnicity, his New Yorkness or his Chicago-ness, whatever he's supposed to be, kind of comes out in this polite, political theater.
His lawyers are looking at the floor like, oh, shit.
Look how ridiculous his glasses are. They're huge. It's the only passion he shows. It's the only De Niro you get, that stereotypical De Niro, right? You don't get that foul-mouthed with that face that he has.
Well, I think, he's been, by this point, he got to play a really interesting part that he didn't have to be the screaming angry guy or the crazy guy, or at least the, violently crazy guy.
Yeah, a lot of guys I know kind of have a problem with the film because De Niro's powerless. He's sort of pathetic in a way.
Well, where he isn't powerless is right in the beginning of the movie, but it's all really to set up his fall. So, yeah, when I said Kevin Pollak is mostly boring and, just plays it straight and doesn't have much of anything interesting to do here, when Sam is about to begin juggling and the look on Pollak's face, okay, that's where the acting is, where he's like, oh, no, not juggling. But
what you observed about him is kind of true of a lot of people in the film, right? It's true of De Niro. He's holding back. It doesn't give an over-the-top performance for the most part, right? I think Pesci, other than the really ultra-violent scenes, is also sort of reserved. I think the excess of the scenario is enough, and I think that the actors pull back. So Pollak and all these other secondary guys,
they each get a scene.
But it's very measured.
Yeah. So have you been to Vegas?
Never. It's why I haven't done cocaine. I know I'll like it. I don't have any moral objection to almost anything, but I know that it would be too much. I gambled once. Actually, well, I've gambled maybe 5 or 6 times in my life. I bet on horses a couple years ago, and I can see very easily why you become addicted to gambling.
Oh, no. Yeah, the buddy I went with, we were such assholes. We went for spring break. We were like Vegas, baby. And it was like in the 50s and 60s when we went in March.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the casinos, once you're inside, It's like all the same fucking machines as in all the other casinos. So it's like $1 billion facade outside and same old crap inside. Caesar's Palace a little bit different, and I love the Bellagio because at the Bellagio they turn the volume on the machines down and you can hear yourself think, because I can't describe just how much floor space there are in casinos.
Oh, God.
So that by the time you've decided that you're bonkers and you're about to kill someone because of just how much of the machines you've heard, you're a good 3-minute walk away from any edge of anything.
Yeah. Here's that intense white light again. In this lush leather interior.
Is that a Cadillac?
It has to be. What else would a mobster drive in 1980? This is what drives Sam crazy. This is where he really starts to lose control.
And it's what gets Andy Stone killed. This still sounds kind of risky.
It also sounds... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
It sounds like exposition again, right? You get exposition mixed in with a lot of what he does. I think exposition gets its due from Scorsese. It's not just thrown away. It's like it's something he always resorts to. He doesn't feel embarrassed by it, you know?
Well, it adds some tension.
It has tension, but it's also, conveying knowledge, right? I mean, like, there is knowledge that these people have that you and I do not have, you know?
There's that sort of Hemingway-esque love of competence. Yeah.
Competence, yeah. It's also like kind of a Gnostic, like we have a secret knowledge, like we in the mafia have a secret knowledge and men know, and it's also very masculine, right? Men know about this. And this is the most ridiculous scene in the film, right? Look at him running from
Why do you have to run to a new car? Yeah. But it, that exposition helps us understand part of his fury here.
And the silence of this and the control of this, the reserve of this. I think these are the iconic scenes in the film.
There's no neon in this scene.
No neon. It's quiet. You get those long
dirt.
You get that sort of oblong shot. I love this music. It's so beautiful. And at one point I knew what it was, and now I don't know anymore. Now it's just been absorbed into my physiology. And it's overlaid with that rat-a-tat, drum beat.
Kind of a Gene Krupa.
Yeah. It's like they're on Mars.
They think you went bad shit. Yeah, yeah. And on one level, Nicky knows. He can't say he knows Nicky. But on another level, it breaks his heart, I think. All right. Technically, that did happen, though, Nicky. Technically, you said, so I have your permission.
We just watched it 2 hours ago. Did he ask? Oh, he said, do you have your permission?
Yeah.
He did say that.
He said, yeah, you got my permission, but I can tell you, it's no joke out here. Well, so Sam's alive, so that's a good result.
And all he got off with was a little anti-Semitism and a little dust in his face.
Dust in the face.
I think the Devo usage in this film and in other films by Scorsese is fantastic. Do you know what Devo stands for?
Devolution.
Oh, very good. Although, maybe that's common knowledge among you people who know things about music. I know nothing about music. I know fucking nothing about music. It's embarrassing.
Oh, Devo, right. I mean, they began as an art project that had a musical component, and then when the music took off, it's like, oh, we're a band. This is what we do.
Yeah. And they deconstructed, the I can't get no satisfaction for the, not for this film, but it appears in this film. And they had to get Mick Jagger's approval for it. And they were nervous as hell. They thought, they'll think we're making fun of him or something. And they really love that song. Here you get this like totally comical sense of how Nicky, is just isolating himself.
Where's Ginger?
Well, we know that Ginger has her own thing and he has his own thing, right? He said that.
They take breaks from each other from time to time.
Yeah, they take breaks from each other.
So this is the scene that makes me think what Nicky wants is Sam's attention.
Mm.
I mean, he's acting out like a teenage kid here.
But they can't bring the cattle prod on this guy. Right?
Do you think he's packing?
Yeah, but they have a cattle prod. There's 5 guys with guns, right? I mean, don't you think they could just... I don't know. I don't know how that would work.
You got Frank Vincent behind him.
Right. And you get this awesome, again, 50s music that comes back that makes you want to laugh, and yet this is just the most terrifying guy you'll ever meet in your life, who can't be disciplined. He can't be escorted out. He can't be held back.
I think this was in Goodfellas too.
I Ain't Got a Home?
Yeah, or like he starts singing as a frog and
yeah. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Maybe that's why people confuse this with Goodfellas. I mean, if there's some crossover with the music.
Both have Gimme Shelter, both got this song.
Where was this in Goodfellas? Do you remember? What scene?
Early on. I think it was when Robert De Niro's character shows up for the first time. And they're going around this kind of club where people are gambling.
Mm. If I can get back to some stupid literary bullshit again with Scorsese, he often says that, the film will come out of the music rather than the other way around. He doesn't just add the music on, There's something in the music that's prior to the drama, that's prior to the film, right? And there's something, he must have read Nietzsche. I know he likes Kazantzakis. So the idea of the tragedy born out of the spirit of music, you just get the music and that somehow governs the whole scene, This, by the way, this lawyer has appeared in a couple of scenes. He's totally unremarkable, but I've noticed him now in a few scenes.
So Ginger here is Sharon Stone's dressed like a widow. So what are you drinking there?
little bit of Paso Robles Cabernet Sauvignon.
Ah,
It's was
look
left
in my
over from
eyes.
New Year's Day. I will look in your eyes, John.
No. All right, I realize he's being a prick here, but this is one of the moments when I kind of like Sam.
It's a common trope in the mafia movie, right? I don't know if you remember The Godfather 2, when Michael says almost the exact same thing to Kay when she wants to leave. He says, "Don't you know that could never happen? Don't you know I won't let you take my children from me?" Right? It's something about that scene where the man of power exerting his power over his own wife as being a point in the mafia drama where things are really starting to rot, you know?
Well,
And then bringing the children into it and saying, like, no, now they're my children, even though I haven't seen them in 5 years or whatever.
all right. And now we're officially into the horrible 1980s haircut.
Horrible haircut. I think that's why people don't like her, is because of her hair. The poor woman. And he's dressed like Pagliacci, you know, like he's in makeup. He looks like a clown.
Oh, he's getting ready to go on TV. And
The Venetian blinds.
He and Nikki aren't getting along. He doesn't call Nikki.
Mm. Hello.
So we're over 2 hours into this movie, and it's not beginning to wrap up.
No. I don't want it ever to wrap up, John. You know, people complain about the length of a Scorsese film. You know, they really should. They really should. I would like to invite them to have intercourse with themselves, because there's too much that he has to say. These are all edited down from 50 hours of footage, I'm sure. You know, it's just. She's doing a line right in front of that girl. It's.
Yeah. And James Woods, he's lost the forelocks and the mustache.
I love when she sticks her tongue out here. This is a very cute kid who plays this. She sticks her tongue out. I love it.
So that bit from the desert, was that Richard Strauss?
What bit? What do you mean?
The music.
No, it wasn't. Richard Strauss was the. I mean, I'll look it up, but it's not Strauss. Strauss was the 2001.
Oh, that's right.
Stuff.
The 2001 for the opening of Sam's show. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, it's a French guy. I'll look it up now, but. I can't live anymore.
Theme de Camille.
Theme to Camille. What is that?
From the motion picture La Mépris by George Delerue.
Wait, is that what that's what the desert song was?
I'm guessing.
Contempt.
What?
Yes. No, the song, it's called Contempt, the Theme de Camille. Or Thème de Camille, yeah.
Okay. Well, dear listeners, I'm glad we got that straightened out.
Well, it's a beautiful piece of music. I mean, they should all know it. It's 1963.
So sometimes the musical choices seem a little bit on the nose, like here. And if you pay too much attention looking for this sort of semiotic leapfrog, it could make the movie seem a lot funnier than it's supposed to be, I think.
Well, but you can go your own way playing during this scene. You can't go your own way. No one can go their own way in this movie, John. This is the irony of this choice of movie. No one can go their own way, right? Sam tries to go his own way. He stopped. Nikki tries to go his own way. He stopped. His wife tries to go her own way. She stopped. I think we've reached a real insight into this film. You cannot go your own way. This is the message of the machinery of Vegas.
Isn't that also
American life?
Isn't that the subtext of the song?
I haven't paid attention to what the song is about because it's a pop song and I know nothing about music.
Well, it's Fleetwood Mac, written by the great Lindsey Buckingham, who,
yes,
frankly, every time he's
Vacation.
not with Fleetwood Mac, he's way better. Yeah. The theme to Vacation, Holiday Road.
Holiday Road. So what is the real message of that song, John? You need to enlighten the hell out of me right now.
Well, back, when he joined Fleetwood Mac, I think we're ignoring the melodrama of the film. When he joined Fleetwood Mac, he joined with Stevie Nicks, and they were a couple, and then they weren't. And basically, the melodrama of Fleetwood Mac has been those two.
Again, we have phone drama. Phones being the major,
Well, and in the background, we've got James Woods kind of threatening to smack the kid again.
Very comical scene. He's actually really good with that kid, I have to say, from an actor point of view. Him and that kid, he hates that kid.
He's got dialogue. Look.
Yeah. He probably genuinely hated that kid in real life. James Woods. They're probably arguing about, Newt Gingrich in the scene. Just poking him.
Just poked him in the face.
Yeah.
And Sam is alone in this palace with
horses,
and it's
yeah,
looks like a Kmart version of Venice.
Why doesn't Sam do something about Lester? I don't know. Why doesn't he just kill him?
Well,
the Georges Delerue music is back, by the way.
He wants, from Ginger, he wants her love and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
He's really not good at asking for those things. He doesn't really have a language for that.
Mm.
And he also has a temper. So, right, when she violates the nature of their arrangement, he's not going to be able to control himself. And, I does seem difficult to, be calm under these circumstances. All right, I really want that plaid jacket.
We should... You know what? I'm going to find it for you, John. I love you so much. I'm going to find that for you. When's your birthday?
April. I wear a 48 long.
April?
Yeah.
Nobody's born in April. When are you born in April? That's not real.
That's when I crawled out, so they say.
Must have been very painful, crawling.
So Sam is crunching the numbers on where the money must have gone. Harassing Ginger. And if she had just told him, the conversation would end, but she wants to withhold that because it's an affront to her dignity. See, here he's doing that. This is like Travis Bickle if he's quiet. He's not going to let it go.
He's a purist, right? He wants the absolute truth. He can't just let the past be the past. He can't.
See, if he kills Lester,
let the numbers go.
Then he's weaker than Lester.
Well, has he killed anybody? He's never killed anybody. Right?
No, he's, even though, right, he's employed by the mob, he sees himself as mob adjacent.
Yeah. He can hurt people and they stay away, but this guy Lester,
well, if he wants
is
a
not
hit,
afraid of him.
I'm sure he could, get it. Well, Lester, it took a while for Lester to get his courage back up, or to run out of schemes that don't involve Ginger.
Dead, but has he killed anybody?
Again, the fucking wallpaper. It's terrifying. So I got this horror movie crawl, right, to this secret conversation.
That frantic whisper. He doesn't come home at night, right? I mean, that's something you don't really. You have to get a sense of what it's like to live with this man. I mean, you get it in the periphery, right? He doesn't come home ever. He's obsessed.
Well, there was an earlier scene we obviously talked over where, right, she gets preferential seating at the restaurant after she announces she's Mrs. Sam Rothstein. And her friend says, well, at least you get something out of it. She was an extraordinarily outgoing person, yeah, and being a rich mom is kind of boring.
See, again, this is why she belongs with Nikki, right? She has the raw feeling of just wanting to murder, just wanting to kill.
Wait, so you're saying this is not what true love looks like? For the record.
This is what marriage looks like. This is
what some marriages look like.
Well, you're married, right?
I am.
This never happens to you? You don't have anything like this at all happen?
I've never had shoes thrown at me. So
Really? I've had pans thrown at me.
Well, that happens with you everywhere, though, doesn't it?
I know. Yeah. Yeah. I can't cook. I think when you reach a stage in your marriage where you actually say you're a bitch and you really mean it, you know that it's reached a really vicious, just irreparable point, That's a really
codependent
vicious...
at best. Yeah. No, I have been in an abusive relationship where you're just always on the edge of just trying to stay sane and
you were the abused. I don't know what you're saying here.
I think they're abusive to each other.
No, you were saying you have been in an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And you were being abused.
Psychologically.
Right, yeah.
And, like you
anally,
really love that person. We'll save that conversation for our Naked Lunch commentary.
And you would show up back with, your significant other in a white mink stole, or it's a stole, mink coat.
So, all right. To me, this is the most tender moment. You said there's no chemistry between these two.
Oh no, this is totally dead, John. This is just death itself.
Nope.
What? A woman in a white mink coat.
Oh, I'm not saying it's her best look, but
no, not her. With a man dressed in pajamas, right, which is the least erotic thing on the planet.
That.
Look, just reaching over. Look at that. What? What are you going to say to me, John?
And it did not last to the end of the next morning. Whatever rapprochement they had there.
Why would it? Here's a beeper. I love you. Here's a fucking beeper. It's red. And it's gigantic.
Well, it's like, what, 1981 or 82?
It's very light. It's the size. It's the size of a fucking
stapler.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. It's like the size of like a family-sized Hershey bar.
So I'd love to know what they're building out here. All right.
Digging holes for heads.
All right. So now that's a great collar and a really wide tie.
Hmm. Is he getting the Windsor knot going? I didn't quite catch it the first time around. Maybe the next shot will show me.
So in musical themes, B.B. King's Thrill is gone.
Hmm. That's that long collar. What do you call that? That's like the long, droopy collar from the 50s, right? What is that?
I could guess, but it's been a long time since I've weighed my collar options. At Brooks Brothers, it's mostly the two options you get.
She's essentially got a fucking mullet. Okay, she's got a mullet. When did mullets?
I think that's uglier than a mullet because of what's happening up front. It's like a tornado, kind of a little bit in front.
You know, I mean, viewers don't know me, but that's my hair. You know, so
that is not your hair.
I feel very insulted by what you're saying. Oh, another milk-fed veal scene. Here we go.
You've got kind of a David Lynch floof affair up top. That's what you got.
You know, people compare me to David Lynch. I get compared to David Lynch and all kinds of horrible, ugly people. It's terrible having my face. You know, he's like in a baby's like booster seat in the scene, right? To seem like he's taller than her. Look at him. He's literally he's literally in a booster seat. That's no way. There's no way he's taller than her in this scene. Look at this.
Well, maybe Sharon Stone is all legs. Maybe she does have really long legs.
What is she? 4'5" of legs, and then the rest is just her.
Yeah.
There he is. Look at him. He's getting his hog out.
Is that what's happening?
I think he's unzipping. He's doing something.
That's a very polyester sweater she's wearing.
You know, I've never had the balls to do what he's doing. This is a very ballsy.
Which is what exactly?
Well, which is like sort of getting your hog out. You know, like here's my hog. You know, I just felt like I had to earn the whole. Because you handle my hog thing.
Yeah, because you're not a hateful person.
Look at this.
No, you just heard the zipper, so the hog didn't come out until right then.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Right. Okay.
So, though, to follow your line of inquiry, though, I think he was making important adjustments earlier.
Yeah, he was. Look at him. He's a foot shorter than her.
And the cars are pulling out in tandem, almost like it's a dance, along with this sort of 1950s doo-wop.
Who is this song about? Is the song about Nikki and Ginger, or is it about? It's got to be about Nikki and Ginger. I mean, do you think what they have is like something closer to love than what Sam and Ginger have? I mean, I don't necessarily think so, but
I think the song is about Sam and Nikki.
Yeah, that is your interpretation of the film. It's like a kind of a Nikki is in love with Sam, right? Is that your final take on the film?
My take on the film is that, I guess it's kind of a queer theory reading. Not that I think that they're gay, but
all men are gay.
Homophobia. Homophobia drives out healthy male relationships and friendships so that, right? I mean, that's why sports are so big in this country, is so that guys can have emotions around each other without being afraid that means something about their sexuality and social standing. So as these mafia guys, like, okay, yeah, how can Nicky get closer to Sam, who he wants to be his friend? Well, fucking his wife is kind of a start. He's been trying, to give Sam all of these hints all these years, and
well, just fuck your wife. Just fuck your wife. Do we know anybody that this happened to? Like male friends of yours who are like, I'm gonna try to. I don't have good enough friends. You know what? I'm upset. None of my friends have tried to fuck my wife. This is a revelatory moment for me, John. I have to say.
I think you should bring this up with your therapist next week.
If my friend Stuart or George or Ezra, or Richard or, Michael, if you're listening to this, I'm really depressed that you have not tried to fuck my wife in a trailer.
All right. One, you haven't really confirmed that all that's true. And two, your friendships may actually be healthy. I know you don't want to admit that.
How
your
boring.
Friendships
It's
may
so
be healthy.
boring. Oh.
No, it's exciting because then you get, to have all of these weird revelations in public.
Wait, no, one of them did fuck my wife. Hold on. This did happen. Never mind.
All right.
Oh, here we go.
How is he entering her in that way? Because he's got...
You know that his penis came up to the middle of her back, right? He was literally spine fucking her. It's one of the weirdest scenes in movie history. They're just sort of rocking back and forth, It's sort of a botched Heimlich maneuver that he's doing.
Guessing they tried a lot of different angles, and that was the least ridiculous of all the ways to film that.
Scorsese was like, all right, okay. Just sort of move, rock, move a lot,
Yeah. I mean, Scorsese's not good at erotics.
That's, you know what? Other than the movie about Jesus who fucks, you're right. Last Temptation, but other than that, where's the, oh, you know what? Wolf of Wall Street's, again, you don't count that as canonical, but it is.
Is it erotic?
When he's sniffing coke out of the hooker's ass, I have to say that's pretty erotic.
Okay.
Sorry. I don't know what's erotic. What I'm not French. I don't know what the fuck that means, but
So we are 2 minutes and 23 minutes into this movie, and we are getting a voiceover from a character we haven't heard from yet.
Yeah. With a very low hairline, who had black eyebrows the day he died. He wrote a book on what it was like to be a gentleman, I believe. The actor playing him, because he got a big role as Leotardo on Sopranos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phil. Yeah, I remember.
Phil Leotardo. Yeah. A fucking, what is it? He goes, a fucking male ballet dancers. He's like, we used to be called Leonardo. And then our name got misspelled, and now we're known as a fucking costume for a male ballet dancer, a leotard. Oh, poor Nicky. He's running out of oomph. He can't even break a guy's face anymore. Go fuck yourself.
Give me shelter again.
Is this the same version? That's a technical question, but I think it is, actually.
Might be an outtake, but it sounds like the same backup singer, right? I mean, that's...
Yeah, it does. It is.
That's the amazing thing about that song.
One of the funniest scenes in movie history here.
I'm going to be doing paperwork for a fucking month.
I'm in a fucking hero sandwich. And here's my...
Here we go. From the Stones proper to Devo's version.
I mean, that's the most on-the-nose musical selection, probably, right? I can't get no satisfaction, right? There's a man who comes on the radio. He doesn't buy the same cigarettes as me, you know? I love this line when he goes, "Look at this fucking guy." I don't know if he's saying that, like, here's maybe a guy who's suspicious, or just like, look at this fucking guy.
Tony Gorilla. Why can't the movie be about Tony Gorilla? I want a new movie just about Tony Gorilla. So Mary Clayton is that amazing singer from Gimme Shelter.
Oh, really?
You know, I know the Stones have like a lot of different versions that they sometimes drag out for re-releases. Yeah, and Nikki's really conflicted.
Back to the Devo.
So by this point, right, the Rolling Stones were one of the biggest rock bands on the planet, and the Lips logo is like one of the most famous logos on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So for the Rolling Stones to be singing Satisfaction, they've kind of become the thing that they were complaining about in the 60s.
I mean, by the 1980s, they were sort of on the wane, right? They must have been.
No.
1980? Really? What did they do in the 80s?
Tattoo You was a huge, huge record. So,
okay.
Like towards the mid and late 80s, Mick and Keith really weren't getting along. So they ended up, you know, but the early part of the 80s, no, they were gigantic.
Wow. I thought the big hits were behind them. I thought they had to wait for 1990s, 95's Love is Strong, you know, for their comeback.
Well, early 80s, they Tattoo You. That was Start Me Up and Waiting on a Friend. And
Start Me Up was the early 80s. Wow. Yeah.
Then they had Undercover in the Night, which I think is one of their best songs ever.
Mm-hmm.
On the record after that.
I have a very back home sort of attitude about the timing of the Rolling Stones. They've always been there. You know, like there's a lot of stuff from the 70s and 80s that gets sort of like folded into my childhood. I really don't remember exactly when it was, you know. That's the most De Niro line he gives in the film. She's there with you.
He's coming over.
There's a lot of Nicky trying to save face in this film, don't you think? You know, the scene where he's with those three guys and he's like, "We have fun too." And that scene where he's like, "Oh, yeah, he's on his way over." And these scenes here, Nicky's trying to save face with everybody. It's kind of interesting.
Be fucking nice.
Calm.
Don't fuck up in here. What's weird is he has to give that hate stare up every single time. You do have the sense in Vegas that like all time periods of schlock are kind of competing at the same time.
It's a schlock orgy. It's like a schlock.
Well, pop music and
Pile-up.
schlock, but yeah, like, like all eras are just kind of all over the place.
She's just asking to be let go, right? She's saying, I will sign anything. Just let me get out of here. And he's saying, go back and be a mother. And then her lover is telling her to go back and be a mother, right?
Or go back and look like you're complying.
Sure. Again, I wish I could be her lawyer. I would mount a tremendous defense of this woman.
Yeah, I don't think that would work.
Who blew you in the park? No, who blew you in the parking lot, right?
She was a hustler, not a hooker. There's a difference.
No, she asks him. Oh yeah, he says that she's a hooker.
Yeah.
But she's saying basically who blew you in the parking lot,
Yeah.
you know?
This kind of points at, your major contention that Sam doesn't kill people. He's doesn't have a gun.
Don Rickles. He's running the fucking
Billy
Don
Sherbert
Rickles
has to go get a gun.
shotgun.
And it's a shotgun, I presume, for hunting purposes.
Mm.
Yeah, so, I mean, the music choices are just so manic depressive here, where the Devo, the lounge music that's dimming in the background, and then the Devo comes roaring in.
Mm. What's the lounge music that Keith's playing? Is that just like for his restaurant or something? I can't really hear it myself.
Yeah.
Let me pump it up.
And Ginger can't even comprehend that he regards Sam as a friend and that means anything.
Well, what is the basis of their friendship? I mean, you see this deep relationship between the two of them. I mean, what is it? I don't see it.
Well, it's one-sided. And, they've known each other for years and years. And it is one of those weird things where you hear people staying in relationships and they're like, well, I just have so much invested. And it's like, you're at each other's throats. I don't...
Well, the sad thing about Ginger now is Ginger can't go back to being the young, beautiful woman who hustles chips.
No.
These guys can keep making money in whatever way they can. And she's shot. She's done. And she's stuck raising kids. And she doesn't fucking want to. And I think if viewers find that difficult to sympathize with, but I understand that completely. I mean, it's just no way out. All these other guys have ways out, and she doesn't. He's saying he's in a spot. He just literally threw a woman into a parking lot.
Well, he fucked up his friendship.
There's something deeply deranged about this Devo, right? You're meant to feel the derangement.
And now we're back to the kind of Gene Krupa rat-a-tat.
Yeah, without the Georges Delarue overtones. The moments of silence in this film are actually quite notable, right? I mean, when does the film shut the fuck up?
Here.
Like this scene right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Him and Don Rickles. Yeah, there's no music here, right? I mean, I can't think of too many scenes without music.
No.
Take the gun and go into my daughter's room.
Well, I'm sure you've uttered versions of that sentence a lot, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. My daughter she'd want a lesson in how to shoot it. She's like, Annie, get your gun, kind of. This is one of the saddest scenes in movie history.
Oh, I think it's one of the funniest.
Really? I feel so sorry for her.
She doesn't know her daughter can see her. That's sad. But she's ripping up the bush and throwing it in his face.
She's my spirit animal, this woman. I love her. What are you looking at? Fuck off.
So, over the many years of their codependent relationship, right, Sam wants to control her, and he's hoping this is just going to, he's hoping things will fit back into the old pattern and just calm down and be better versions of their shit marriage.
Mm.
That's such a cute house.
But look at the humiliation that Sharon Stone must have undergone to play this role, right? I mean, she's really degrading herself. She's so desperate and sort of, sloppy and ridiculous.
Well, she's going against, Hollywood glamour. She made a movie called Last Dance, which was like a death row melodrama that unfortunately came out about 6 months after Dead Man Walking.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of her big, unglamorous, attempts at showing off some real acting chops. And compared to Dead Man Walking, you're like,
she's so great in this movie. It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. I can't think of another female role in the whole of the 90s that's as great as this. I don't know who the fuck won the Academy Award that year, but she deserved it, hands down.
Well, she manages to play it pretty big, especially here at the end. And De Niro's playing so quiet and so small.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the wardrobe being loud, like that, Sam is pretty quiet.
Yeah. Was she actress or supporting actress? Do you remember? Or no, she was actress. Well, you know what? Susan Sarandon won for Dead Man Walking. Can you believe that? What a bunch of bullshit. So
playing
here's
Sister Helen Prejean. There you go.
Here is the list from that year: Susan Sarandon, Dead Man Walking; Sharon Stone, Casino; Elizabeth Shue, Leaving Las Vegas. And now she was really great in that film. Meryl Streep, The Bridges of Madison County, and Emma Thompson, Sense and Sensibility. That was a huge year for female actresses.
Meh, I don't care about the Oscars.
No, I know, but I mean, in terms of the actresses and the roles they were given that year, it's pretty good.
I'm just afraid of the fact that Clint Eastwood directed The Bridges of Madison County. I actually read that book before I knew.
What? Really?
Like, the book was big, but nobody was talking about it, so I'm like, shit, I'll read it. It's short.
I feel like you're Sharon Stone in the scene, and everyone's telling me she drove away. Nothing we can do. Like he read Bridges of Madison County. Nothing we can do. Can't you arrest him? Can't you do something? What the fuck, John? You read that book? You haven't read The Idiot by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Come on, there's so many things you haven't read. Why would you read Bridges of Madison County?
Why would I read The Idiot when I've been the idiot? That's my life story.
Why would you read your own autobiography?
So Sharon Stone here, I mean, she's a child. She's just so incredibly vulnerable. And Casino is one of those movies Hollywood will never give an Oscar to. Not a real Oscar. Like maybe sound design or something like that, but right, for acting or whatever, directing, this is not what they are going to reward filmmakers for.
I mean, this film wasn't even nominated. Can you fucking believe that? Right? I mean, you have Braveheart.
The Oscars are bullshit.
I know, but at least the bullshit, there's some, like when you shit, there's at least corn in the shit, Like there's at least some real food in the shit, right? So like, what's the real food?
No, the job of the Oscars is for them to reflect back to themselves their idealized self-image.
Best Picture in 1995. Okay. Braveheart, Apollo 13, Babe. Okay, Babe. All right. Il Postino, which is a foreign film, and Sense and Sensibility. And Casino is just nowhere near. It's unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
Artie Piscano's swan song here. Fucking balloon head.
That's the second time he's used that insult. Balloon head. We've talked about Louis Prima, but he's come back like 3 or 4 times in this film, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, again, a guy dies and you're playing... That's what I'm playing when I have my massive coronary. And then here's the real...
Oh, this is leading to my favorite scene. Though I love this movie so much, they're almost all my favorite scene.
I like when all the guys pretending to have emphysema and shit are conferring.
Well, that's the scene. People are going to get clipped. And the oxygen masks come off as soon as the people leave the room.
Okay, so that's not Scorsese's dad, but...
So they're talking about the head of the Teamsters Union and whether or not they should take him out. Remo, what do you think? And they're saying, no, he's not going to do it. And Remo says...
Why take a chance? But that's what made Sam Rothstein, Ace Rothstein, Lefty Rosenthal what he was. He didn't take chances, right? And his tragedy is that he took a chance. He took a chance on somebody who he knew was a sure bet against him. Wasn't even a chance. It was a sure bet against him.
Yeah.
Why take a chance? This is where the movie just starts to feel very, very nihilistic.
Oh, yeah.
By this time, we don't even know who John Nance is. I mean, we've seen this movie a million times. I know who he is.
No, John Nance. He was the...
He was the guy getting the money. He looks like a chef in this scene.
He's in charge of the scam. He's wearing a guayabera.
Yeah. He's collecting all the coins and the things, and he goes to Kansas City. That's his claim in the movie. He's
collecting cash, not coins. He couldn't carry coins.
Well, that's a scene where there's lots of coins pouring in.
Yes,
but yeah, you're right. Yes, you are correct. Doesn't he look like a fucking chef?
No.
In that white?
That's a guayabera. He's in Costa Rica, for fuck's sake.
Good Lord.
All right, I'm a Florida boy. I know what a guayabera is. All right.
You people are perverts. You really are. Guayabera. I think the worst part is that he calls him a jagoff right before he fucking annihilates him. That's the worst thing.
And here we have like this bizarre, idiosyncratic.
I do?
Like, punch the guy in the face with a gun, pistol whip him, put the plastic over his head,
yeah,
and then whack him some more. So I think he uses, right, all of House of the Rising Sun here, right? It's been this rare moment where you hear a whole song.
What's funny is you can't imagine another director using this without pretending like they were imitating Scorsese. You know, like it's his song. If he used this in The Last Temptation of Christ, I would be like, yep, that's exactly what he needs to use right here. Yeah, like Jesus dying on the cross, you know.
I could see that. Yeah, that may be the most depressing point of the whole movie. She was betrayed by her drug dealers.
Well, the real story is, you know, they thought that she knew a lot, and he thought she might have been assassinated. He really did love her till the end, you know, in real life and in the film and whatever. He really did think that there was something that she knew, because she knew a lot about men and their habits and, you know, and their sins.
So, are you a Tony Roma man?
Am I a Tony Roma man?
Yeah.
No, I don't. What is that? What is it?
That's where he just ate. It's a barbecue place.
Tony Roma.
He wore that to eat barbecue in.
He wore salmon to eat barbecue. He's the kind of guy who would order salmon at a barbecue place. Like he'll go to like Peter Luger's and order the flounder. This is where his narrative, his monologue, his voiceover.
So is this back in Illinois, you think?
This is definitely in Illinois. It's cornfields. I always thought it was Costa Rica because you got that little blurb at the end, but no, it is meant to be the Midwest.
No, Costa Rica is where John Nash was.
I know, but all the green there, I kind of thought was. I think this is how I want to die. I want to die like this. Me and you, John, I feel like I want you to be the first guy to go. I want to watch you.
Why are you so sure I'm not going to be holding one of the bats?
Yeah, well, because I know you're a fucking scumbag. You're going to get pulverized by bats. And I'm going to have to pretend to give a shit. What's amazing is how old these guys are. Look at them.
Yeah. There isn't a 30-year-old among them.
I mean, the mafia is young men, like armies, like all the rest of it. It's children, you know? If you ever read this shit, I mean, again, the guy in Goodfellas that Pesci plays was a young man when he died. He was 29. Something like that. And the character he's playing here, I don't think was very old. I think maybe he was in his 40s. We get the impression that they're older than they are because of the actors that play them, but they're all young men. Most of them. Ugh. Vomiting blood. The bruised thighs, the bruised back. Ugh.
Burial alive.
And the coughing up of the sand.
Dust. Yeah.
You could see why Scorsese would feel like he'd reached an outer limit of what he could do with this material. This is excruciating to watch.
The furious cruelty of this scene. Well, and it's what makes, gangster films great is, it critiques the violence it's showing and makes us question how, our own responses to it. If you think of, say, True Lies, and at the end, Arnold Schwarzenegger sends a missile with a terrorist on, attached to the missile to explode into a helicopter of other brown men, and we're supposed to be thrilled. And, okay, they're terrorists, they're bad guys, but I'm sure plenty of Americans just got really excited that Middle Eastern men got killed. And it's like, oh, we don't have to think too much about it, whereas that last scene, oh my God.
Well, those two guys were the worst people on the planet, and you get to see them pulverized by baseball bats, and you feel sympathy, right? I mean, the thudding of the bats against their bodies and just horrendous. It's just horrendous. They're just bodies at that point. They're
forcing Nikki to watch and taunting.
They're just pain centers. That's all they are. They receive pain. And no matter what they've done in their lives, that's what they are now. They're being tortured. And then here we get the coda.
So we have come full circle, and the explosion that Sam survives, and St. Matthew's Passion comes back. So I got a translation here of what's being sung in this part. And this is what it says. We sit down with tears and call to you in the grave. Rest gently, gently rest. Rest, you exhausted limbs. Rest gently, rest well. Your grave and headstone shall, for the anxious conscience, be a comfortable pillow, and the resting place for the soul. But rest gently, gently rest. Highly contented. There the eyes fall asleep. Creepy. Beautiful.
Georges Delerue coming back.
And he was wearing sunglasses even larger than the ones he wore at his hearing.
You feel there's this tremendous sadness that he's lost the great life, that he's back to just his little bedding sheet and, there's something tremendously sad about his end. Sadder even than his wife. They're all granted a death, something tragic, and he just sort of hangs on as this kind of pathetic looking guy.
This apparatus with a human kind of attached to it.
The sadness of Vegas, right? I mean, there's the loss of the human in modern Vegas at the end, right? They don't even treat you like a special person anymore. Remember what Ginger had was the personal touch, right?
As she ripped people off.
As she ripped people off. But we want that. Again, it's about fun to be fooled, right? We want to at least feel like people as they're ripping us off, rather than as visitors to the Disney park or whatever,
Well, it's not like a Disney park. It's like the facade for a Disney park without a park being inside.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine going to Disney World and there's just slot machines in there. And then you pass by an acre of slot machines, and then there are more slot machines.
And nothing coming out of them.
Enough coming out of them to keep you putting more money in. Yeah.
My addiction to gambling would begin with the sense that with one decision you could change your life, which isn't true for anything else that we do. You make one decision and it's significant, and it can change your life. You can make hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars. You can do that. You feel that when you gamble. I made $500 on one horse once, and you feel it very keenly, And yet, none of these characters could change in their lives and live the lives that they wanted to.
Well, I've watched family members waste away their life.
Of course. Of course.
So, yeah, I just find it depressing. And
have you ever had the rush of winning, though?
I've had the rush of publication. It doesn't last that long.
That's like gambling. We've lived a life of just like one big gamble gone wrong.
Yeah, well, trying to be a writer, it's very much like marrying Ginger if you're Sam Rothstein.
Well,
at its best, it still feels kind of iffy.
So, John, how do we do? How do we do with this movie? I feel like we illuminated this for the listeners. You feel like this is just going to be like I think it's going to be viral. I mean, I think it's going to be totally viral.
I think people are going to be thrilled to know all about our kinks and quirks and psychological hangups.
I don't know where you would get that from at all. I don't know what you're talking about, but
this movie is largely a Rorschach test, just to see how fucked up we are.
What needs to be said is we are the two biggest fans of this movie on the planet, right? I mean, I would put this up with the great American works of art of the 20th century. No question. I would. What would you say?
This is a fictional story of fictional characters adapted from true story.
It's
Why are they putting it here?
It's the truest shit on the planet, guys. It's so true. And here's the 78 million songs that were used in the movie. The In Crowd, one of my favorite things of all time. Plays at all my parties. Well, it was a real honor to watch this film with you, John, and I appreciate your asking me to do it, even though I'm a complete nobody and have nothing to say.
Oh, that's not true, and you're one of the most delightfully daft people I know.
Well, you too. Right back at you, buddy. What do you think we should do next?
Popeye.
Something
That's what I think we should do.
Popeye is the greatest movie of all time.
Robert Altman's most underrated film.
We're going to do Popeye?
I want to do Popeye.
Let's do Popeye. And then a screwball comedy, but let's do Popeye.
So, yeah, all right. We can go to the bathroom and then come right back. And all right, so Popeye in about 10 minutes. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
And then The Godfather. That's what I think.
Oh.
Well. Yeah, no, this movie really holds up for me. I never get sick of it. So if I'm, running around and like, oh, Casino's on. It's like, it's hard for me to move on and want to do anything else.
It's like catching a virus. It's like it's on TV. You cannot stop watching it. That's when you know you have a great film. It's like catching a cold. And then you just enjoy the soup and the pampering. You just revel in it.
Well, and dear listeners, we're glad to share that cold with you.